Homelessness 2.0 day 81. Making some ramen. The water's going to a nice hard ass boil, so it's gonna be a moment before it's funny, yesterday I couldn't stop saying in my videos, or having some other kind of word filler, which is really annoying, to be honest. Like, I know I've done it before, but to not that extent, or not to that extent. And it wasn't just annoying, it was so off-putting that I didn't even want to listen to it. And what I'm about to say might sound really self-centered, but that's not really it. I didn't even want to listen to myself. The reason I listen to myself is it's kind of multifaceted, I guess. Part of it is to maybe reinforce some thoughts, or to reflect on some and maybe change them. But also to make sure that everything's going smoothly. Like, 20 some odd minutes into the video, it cuts off because it overheated. Despite the fact that I felt like I'd done everything right. But welcome to cooking. Especially cooking with a gas stove. It gets hot in the kitchen with a gas stove. So I watched Raging Bull last night, and it took a while for me to not absolutely hate the experience, because Robert De Niro's character is not a protagonist, and it's definitely not one you would root for. He's an absolute garbage human being, and that seems to be just kind of the nature of it all. I'm sure there might be someone out there who'd be like, "Oh, well, didn't you see his wife? She was being a garbage person too. She was being a bitch." In response to him being a piece of shit. I mean, that's domestic abuse 101. I know, I saw it. Not just the movie, but I saw it in real life. Ever since that one time that I horked up what looked like an alien baby out of my lungs, despite the fact that I had, extra crap inside of me. That. And it was kind of like that, snorted out of my nose and then made sure that it wasn't going into my lungs. It's just been, pretty clear. which is a good sign. You want your phlegm to be clear. You don't want it to be yellow or green or red, black. A little too much water in that. I still haven't even booked my my test, and I'm pretty sure the next time I'll have it is like 3 weeks or some shit. Who fucking knows? I'll turn on the fan, plug in my computer. It's Thursday. I have a week and like 4 days left because the last day of January is a Monday. It's a week from Monday. Oh, I was talking about Raging Bull. If you look at it from a filmmaking perspective, Raging Bull is a phenomenal piece of work. And I see why people bring it up and why a lot of people classify it as a classic. Story-wise, and I mean, even with regards to the story, I mean, it's not a story. You should kind of know what you're getting into when you watch that film. It's not a hero's journey. It's a villain's journey, but it's a villain in the sense of an everyday man who excels at boxing. But, and it's sort of slice of life, and it's not, it's raw, it's uncomfortable, it's painful, and it shows very much the dark side of celebrity. It being shot entirely in black and white, despite it being a 1980 film, is an interesting choice. The sort of grit and downtrodden nature of it all makes a lot of sense. It helps that aesthetic. It helps to reinforce. There's a reason why Martin Scorsese is classified as one of the best directors of all time. I haven't seen The Irishman. I have seen some of his other films, but I can't remember which. I've seen Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street wasn't really any kind of cinematic masterpiece or anything. It was interesting storytelling. And again, it has that, and I've seen The Departed. And so far, it seems as though, at least from those three films, what you're getting out of a Scorsese film is effectively more of that slice of life type stuff. It also makes you wonder how much of a criminal is Martin Scorsese and the people that he has spent time with. Because he seems to really cover that shit. Like, even if he's not technically a criminal, he has spent a lot of it. At least this is the conclusion I can come up with. He has spent an inordinate amount of time with deplorable people. Because he seems to be able to create films with a lot of really deplorable fucking people. And deplorable people that caricatures or anything. I mean, to a degree, yes, they are, but because they kind of have to be a caricature in order for it to be a film, in order to be a drama. I don't have my notes with me, they're in my storage, but when I was taking my improv class on like day one, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but it still sticks with me conceptually, is that in order to be a good actor, you can't be a good person. Now, obviously that's not like, and again, I don't know if that's verbatim or not, but the idea is, in order to be a good actor, you can't portray a good person. Because a good person doesn't want to deal with conflict. A good person tries to avoid conflict as best they can. But to be a good actor, you have to portray the conflict. You have to let that thing occur. Because that's where the story is. Call it, the breaking point of these people's lives. It's when whatever has happened, either to them or whatever, or around them, to the point in which they have lost, or at least temporarily have lost, that good personness of who they are. They are no longer one more shot of that in there. They are no longer going to sit back and effectively do nothing as they have been. Because that's kind of what a good person would do. A good person, and I'm not saying that they'll just be completely blind and apathetic to everything that's going on. But that's the point. I just realized I should put some butter in my ramen. It might be too much, but we'll see. Probably should have maybe put it in there before I dumped in all the water, and then let it sit. But hey, that's what experimentation is all about. That's why people experiment with food. Or I mean, that's how experimentation happens, you could say also, is like, because people get an idea and they're like, I wonder. Probably would have been better to have the butter be room temperature. Or like I said, dump it in, or put it in when I dump the water in, because it's going to cool down the whole thing quite a bit. We'll see how well it works. And, because I mean, like, the average everyday person, okay, so there's this monologue that people will use for auditions or practice or whatever, and it's basically just called Chunky Turkey Soup. And it's this actor, it's in a play, and it's this actor who comes home, and after having just a string of bad luck, he's realized that, the only real comfort in his life is this chunky turkey soup. And see, that's one of the things about relationships with regards to, like, relationships can come in any form. It can come in the form of a comforting food. It can come in the form of your cat. It can come in the form of, a hot sauce, whatever. And he finds out that his roommate has consumed his chunky turkey soup, and he loses his shit. And he goes off on this monologue. Now, if you just took that monologue at face value, you'd think this person was fucking crazy. Like, why are you going off on this fucking can of soup? Who gives a fuck? It's a fucking can of soup. But it's not. It's more than that. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. It's the last thing that could have kept him from losing his shit. Because of the various issues that he may be having. And I don't know the play specifically. It's just been a monologue that I've seen done a couple of times in acting classes. But the reason I'm bringing it up is to help reinforce the idea that, to be a good actor, you can't portray a good person. Because pretty much every movie, play, television show, whatever, is that sort of almost, if you will, life and death situation. Whether there is actual life and death stakes is up for debate or up to whatever the content is, the script, etc. But if you portray it like that, that's where the real drama comes into play. That's where the real comedy comes into play. That's when the person really tries to fight for the thing that really matters for them. When they feel as if the matter at hand is life and death. And if you look at a movie, if you look at Raging Bull, if you look at De Niro's character, there's a lot of subtext. You don't get every ounce of his story. You're only getting the surface. But you're getting a lot of surface. You're getting a lot of surface with a lot of depth. And, I mean, literally, I think it's the first scene. Well, not the very, very first scene. The first scene is a fight that he's in. But like the first real world scene where he's having a conversation, where it's people talking. He and his brother talking, I think, about the previous fight and about what's coming up. And Joe Pesci is his brother, and Joe Pesci does a fantastic job. And Robert De Niro's character, who I can't even remember his damn name. They said it so many times, and I still can't remember his name. I think it was Ray. Coughed up a little bit of ramen there. But in this conversation, the reality of life is happening as they're having this conversation, and he's hungry, he wants this steak, his wife is cooking a steak, but then he's pissed that she seems to be overcooking the steak, and he raises the stakes on the steak by, he's like, bring it over here, don't fucking cook it anymore, stop cooking the damn thing. It's like, who gives a fuck? Who would be so upset about a fucking steak that they'll cause such a scene? And at one point, she brings it over, she's pissed at him because obviously he's being a piece of shit. And she puts it on the table, and then motherfucker flips the whole fucking table because of her attitude. But her attitude is due to his attitude and his behavior. And it's like, okay, we've established that this person is a piece of shit. And in a way, you could say that this film is a bit of Schadenfreude, because he is a boxer, and you get to watch people beat the fuck out of him. And so there is some satisfying aspects to it, but the whole time I'm not truly feeling the Schadenfreude. because I feel like at some point where there's supposedly some kind of redemption coming. Because that's just how I've seen films most of my life. And perhaps it says something about me and how I've seen Scorsese films, because I haven't seen that many of them. Because the 3 films that I have seen, that I know I've seen, that are Scorsese films, there is no real redemption for the main characters. I'm not even sure who the main character of The Departed is. I think it's Leo. It's been a while. But, and interestingly enough, Leo is definitely the main character of Wolf of Wall Street. That movie just felt like a slog, though, at times. I mean, especially when he's like, when he was getting fucked up on Quaaludes, the casino, and he's like out, and he's just trying to drag. Like, I get it. It's it's crazy good film. It's crazy good cinema. But like at the same time, holy shit, it dragged on for so fucking long. I mean, and that's the thing about film that I've noticed, where, like, if you look at what Raging Bull is, it does not feel like a film in the sense of entertainment. This is a film that is intended to be a piece of art. If you look at 2001: A Space Odyssey, same thing. Like, that movie's not enjoyable at all. It's a phenomenal piece of artwork, but oh my god, does it suck as a piece of entertainment. It's not entertaining. And I'm umming a lot too. And I think part of the reason why I'm umming a lot is because I haven't fully prepared the next sentence or two in some capacity or another. I haven't, because if you go back to the videos where I have like a super strong opinion about something, I'm not umming a lot at all. But in a situation like this, when there's a lot of interpretation involved, when there's a lot of trying to pull back, you know, and pull away the cobwebs of my mind with regards to film and writing and acting and all that stuff. Like, I'm not a film critic. I'd rather work in it. I just don't know what part. Because here's the problem. I haven't done much with regards to television, film, theater, whatever. I've had my toes in a little bit of them. I was a background actor for some show that I'm not even sure even took off. And I was a pretty minor supporting character in a short film that was like 5 minutes long. I didn't do a great job in it, but... And then I was a supporting character. I was actually Friar Lawrence in Romeo and Juliet, twice. Same director, just different productions. I was part of PCC, and it's literally the first thing I've ever done acting-wise that I can think of anyway. Maybe when I was a kid, I think I did a little bit of something. In fact, I think it was 7th or 8th grade. We did something. I don't remember exactly what it was. I don't think it was a play or anything. I think it was just kind of a presentation of some kind. And I tried to be off book. I tried to be memorized. I screwed up my lines. But everybody else was walking around with a piece of paper in their fucking hands. Might say something about me, I'm not sure. And I like part of the process. You know, there's a lot of it I do like. It's just that I'm not good at recognizing whatever my strengths are and trying to push that out in the world. But the point I wanted to bring up was that despite the lack of experience that I've had, what experience I've had is I've always wanted to be a part of the whole fucking thing. Especially if I was being an actor, I wanted to be involved in more of it. Now, when I was that background actor, it was a much bigger project, you know, and the whole damn thing it was run pretty well. It was run like a crazy, well-oiled machine. And I got to see quite a bit in it of what was really going on in that world, and how little choices some people have, but how, you know, and how certain things worked. And it was a really eye-opening experience. It's really interesting, in fact. And I'd like to do more of it. In fact, I got 2 gigs through Backstage. I mean, I feel like I want to keep doing it. I want to go back into it. I don't know exactly what, and that's the thing, like I was saying, it's like I don't know precisely where I would fit in. You know, acting is one thing, acting on stage is one thing, acting on camera is another thing. It requires subtlety, a lot of subtlety. Like, being an actor on stage fits me really well. Being an actor on camera does not fit me very well. But that's not to say that I wouldn't necessarily be able to do both. And obviously, you know, it would mean that I would have to work on trying to be better at acting on camera if I wanted to continue doing something like that. But when I was a part of the productions, the smaller ones, I wanted to learn more about the bigger part of it, you know, about all of it. I was in the middle of something and I wanted to learn more. It's like if you watch that scene in Quantum of Solace where Bond is at the docks. After Olga Kurylenko, I think that Kurylenko, I don't know how to pronounce words like that, damn it. I'd have to hear it first and then repeat it. Just because I read it doesn't necessarily mean I know what I'm saying. But when she gets to the docks and she's talking to the villain of the film and his buddy, there's a point where you see a dude sweeping, using a big ass push sweeper, and he's not touching the ground. He's just sweeping the air. It's like, one, why is he even, like, if you don't want, and the reason why is because that sound will come onto, that sound will be picked up by the mics. And you don't want that. You want as clean audio as possible. Check and see if this is recording. Yep. That was unexpected. But why would you have a dude sweeping if it's just gonna make noise? Sometimes it's just the director has a specific vision or whatever, and they're like, we need to fill in this gap somewhere, and that's the cool thing, and the crazy thing about directors is how their creativity comes in different ways. And I got to sort of have a taste of that when I was part of the second production of Romeo and Juliet. I started talking with the director about certain things, and because she was open, like the first time, like I said, kind of felt like we were just more pawns in her game of chess, whereas in the second one, because and I think because it was successful and we all did a really good job, I think at least She trusted us more. Okay. The addition of the butter is pretty good. I'm tasting it more now than it was with the noodles. So yeah, if I put in the butter, the pat of butter in there, just like 2 tablespoons. Like maybe at the bottom, put it under, like put the butter in first, put the brick of noodles above it, and then pour the water over and let it sit like that. It should definitely melt better. Melt the butter better. Yeah, it's it's like so many other things. It's like the 11th hour, and I'm only starting to realize some of the shit that I care about. It's weird. Yesterday I made the decision to go to Dallas. I was like, I have to go to Dallas. And what happened? I did a full 180. Almost immediately. I was like, no, I can't fucking do that. I hate that idea. Here are the reasons why. It's like, because I made a decision and because I made it real, I also realized how much I did not want that to happen. And like, yes, the driving the car thing is still on the table. And getting a driver's license is a good idea. And especially for LA, and especially if I were to become an actor. Because spending $50 just to go to an audition or to, or even just to go to do your role for however many, days in a row, it gets expensive. Now, of course, a car is expensive too. But the car also opens up more opportunities. Because of the way everything works. So many times I feel like I'm just behind. It's as if I already made these decisions 6-7 years ago. That I was like, these are things that I wanted to do. Like if I was able to find a place, even if it was a couple $100 a month for a room, or several $100, because I mean there ain't a couple $100 a month for a room. It would stabilize my situation well enough where, because like I said, I have about 10,000 saved up. It would be like when I first stopped being homeless. And I would have that money. I would know where it's going. I also have some stuff that I don't have to buy, so it's not like I'd be building up, an arsenal of crap. And then with a car, which would cost significant money, but the car would open up a lot of opportunities. And I don't know where or what I would do, but I think the starting point would be going back to PCC, talking to a couple of professors that would hopefully still be there to start working more on the direction that I want to go. I don't know why I'm so fascinated in this world. But ever since I started learning about it, I want to learn about more of it. And I don't have that motivation or drive like some will tell you. I think like Matt Damon's one of them. It's like if you don't live and breathe acting, don't do it. Like if you're not obsessed about it, don't do it. And I guess obsession comes in various forms. Some actors, like, they're so into it, they basically do live and breathe. That's all they do. And I mean, in a way, you kind of have to. I was having a conversation with myself last night, and it's weird that it even happened, but it was kind of from the movie, and then I was watching Trevor Noah's stand-up special. I can't remember which one it was. It was 2017, so it was after Trump had been elected, but before all the other bullshit that really happened. And he'd made mention of that, and at one point he was talking about he had one big segment of his special. It was when he was at Madison Square Garden, and he was talking about when Obama met Nelson Mandela back before anybody really knew who he was as a senator. And he was breaking down, like, it was a brilliant piece. He was basically breaking down why you could be the first black president vocally, and it was like it was such an awesomely layered breakdown of how speech can be used, and how he got to, and if you will, how he got to his ability to speak like Obama. The man is a linguist beyond any other comedian I've ever fucking seen. Trevor Noah is a goddamn genius. And like, it took me a while to warm up to him when he took over The Daily Show, because I hadn't seen much of his stuff or anything. I didn't really know who he was. And I'm sure, sadly, there was probably still some residual racism going on in my brain. It still exists. I hate it, and I'm trying to overcome it. But the more that I've watched him, the way that he would respond to things, the way, and especially like, my favorite part of his show isn't the show itself. It's the between the scenes with him. Talking, doing crowd work, talking to people. I mean, one, he's a great improvisationalist. But two, he's a great improvisationalist who is very intelligent. And he's very eloquent about how he responds to people. Some of his responses, or even if it's just a thought that he has, because sometimes the between the scenes is just kind of him talking about a subject matter, but it's not going to make it to air. And it's like, that is a perspective I had never considered. And that's one of the things about comedians anyway, is that they often do that anyway. They will provide you with a perspective that you hadn't considered, especially about everyday stuff. That's what makes real good comedians really good, is when they talk about everyday things in a way you never even considered. And then they dramatize it and everything else. But I was watching that, and then I had a conversation sort of with myself as if I was sort of tutoring somebody who had just started acting. And one of the things that I was trying to say to that imaginary person was like, take ownership of your character when you're portraying them. Instead of saying, Stanley from Streetcar Desire. It's been a while since I've seen the film, and I don't remember a whole lot about what was going on. But let's just say it's Stanley from Streetcar Desire, and you're playing Stanley. You, the actor portraying Stanley, should not say Stanley's name. When talking about Stanley and what he wants and how he's going to do it. Stanley's relationships, his actions, the obstacles, his objectives, where he lives, what he's wearing, etc., where he's at, blah, blah, blah. All the information, all the facts about Stanley should not be stated, well, Stanley wants this, and Stanley wants that, or Stanley's going to do this, and Stanley instead is going to do this instead. You're going to say I. You're going to say me. You're going to say my. You're going to own that character. And the reason why, one, it makes it easier. It really does. When you're just saying, okay, it's me. But also when you say it's me, you start to put yourself into it. Literally. When you're saying, what's my objective in this scene? and how does my objective in this scene matter with regards to the objective of the entire play or the entire film? These things matter. Every action you take is you trying to achieve a goal, and you being the character. When you take it upon yourself as yourself, because you're the one portraying the character, you can personalize it, you can humanize it, and you can make it yours. And in doing so, you make it unique too. Because anybody can play Stanley, but only you can play Stanley the way that you play Stanley. And only Marlon Brando can play Stanley the way that he played Stanley. I mean, that's why the film even happened, is because he walked on stage and he was Stanley. And the other characters, your Blanches and all that, they were their characters. And because it was so successful as a play, they made it into film, just like A Few Good Men. What's the other one that Paul Rudd and Rachel Weisz? Crap. I can't remember the name of the damn play. It's not as predominant. It's not nearly as culturally broad. Okay, here's one. Hamilton. Fucking Lin-Manuel Miranda is a goddamn genius. I've never seen Hamilton. I've only heard bits and pieces of it. I think I have the recording though, like the professional recording. I think I have it downloaded. But I could, if I don't, I could go get it. But the reason I was even bringing all this up is like, I'm not the person who lives and breathes this stuff. I don't think about it in that Lin-Manuel Miranda way, or in that Marlon Brando way. Which means I'm not going to become world renowned. And I think that's kind of part of the point, is acting is not a viable source of income. Working around it is sometimes, depending on what you get and how lucky you get, and also how much work you have to do in this soon. But the thing is like, that's also why I do what I do with the soup, because it helps with that. Helps loosen the film so you can get it out of you. Anyway, I don't want to move back to Dallas. I have to plan to stay here. I have to plan to drive. I have to plan to get a car. I have to plan to go back to school. I have to plan to figure out what the hell I'm going to do in school. And right now I'm not even admitted. So I have to go through the admission process to figure some stuff out. And there's no way I could do it for the spring semester, which comes up usually in the beginning of March, maybe end of February. So I have to plan for basically August to start this back up. But in the process, I have to figure out how to make it to August as well. So that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's kind of scary. And now I gotta go take a shit in the shower. Have fun.